you have been in lab 2 as well, right? Is that one closed by now? Do you know? Yes, it is.
Yes, they are closed. Yeah.
So then people will drop in now. So Lisa, as people are dropping in, I guess I can just start on time, 11:45. Great. Then let's start the introduction, and let's start lab 3 of the Urban Thinker Campus, the first one in 2022 for Mannheim. A lot more to come. Assalamu alaikum to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Herzlich willkommen nach Mannheim und Deutschland. We already had some great speeches today. I thought the inaugural session with the mayors of Kuala Lumpur and Mannheim was setting a quite perfect frame for today's session, where the mayor of Mannheim introduced the focus on SDG 17 on partnership. And the mayor of Kuala Lumpur said main goal is to have happy cities, which is the result of having a climate adapted city. So in partnership to reach a happy city, what a perfect frame, which we are about to have the last lab on today. So I welcome you to the Urban Lab number 3. My name is Noah Fleischer. I will guide you through this session in this, for me, around noon, where we talked for our Malaysian colleagues in the evening. And ahead of us, we have some insightful speeches, presentations and discussions on the topic of how to keeping track of progress to achieve related SDG goals and implement them on the ground. So as we deep diving through this day, and we started with the overview in the inaugural session, we got in lab 1 and 2 more into the policy making, how to do development plans on cities. We really now go into the deep dive, how to actually do it in projects where we get nice examples from. With the mission statement, Mannheim 2030, our city has the vision of being a climate-friendly, climate-resilient, and climate-neutral city by 2030. So that's the overall goal we already heard about today. To achieve these goals, Mannheim is implementing measures in climate change, climate mitigation, and climate change adaptation. All this follows through in the Climate Action Plan 2030, and we already heard today in I think it was lab number 2, how we connect this local Green Deal plans with the national and even European plans, that this all fits together and is integrated. Apart from that, we're even a pilot city on the local Green Deal. And with the target of partnership, we're happy to share and to learn from friends from Kuala Lumpur, how they achieve their goals and what are best practice projects. So I'm looking forward for today's impulses and discussions. And the following lab is organized in 2 keynotes from Bernhard Schumacher and from Norzila Hashim. And then we get 3 presentations on projects. And then we have time to discuss, to summarize, and to get to joint conclusions. So first, I will hand over to Bernhard Schumacher. He's on the board of MVV Energy, which is one of the largest energy companies in Germany, actually, and is located and based in Germany. In Germany, of course, but as well located in Mannheim. Yeah, so in downtown Mannheim, we have the large MVV tower. And he and his team are responsible for the new smart city business area. This includes, for example, the energy concept of the conversion project on the former military site Franklin. Those are former US barracks and are now one of the most innovative parts of Mannheim. And there a quarter is created with state-of-the-art infrastructure, and Mr. Schumacher will explain us what in detail is done there. Stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fleischer. I thought I have to introduce myself, but I wouldn't be able to do that as perfectly as you already did it. So thank you very much, very kind. Thank you. So I will share my computer and I hope it will work. Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah. Although it was mentioned that we are doing a deep dive, I will give you an overview, and maybe afterwards in the discussion we could dive a little bit more into the details. First of all, I will show you our objective. We will contribute to the Paris Climate Agreement, and we will cut our CO2 emissions by 80% until 2030. This is important for us because we would like to support the city of Mannheim in the decarbonization goals. And on the other hand, we would like to help our customers all over Germany as well to achieve their personal, so to say, their private decarbonization goals. We are going to be climate neutral as a company by 2040, and we are going to be climate positive from 2040 onwards. And in which sectors are we trying to achieve those ambitious goals? First and most important, it's the heat. Please keep in mind that 2/3 of the flats and households here in Mannheim are supplied with district heating from a CHP power plant, one of the most biggest ones here in Germany. But we are as well a, so to say, producer of electricity, and we produce renewable energy actually all over the world, from Europe to Africa, the Americas, and up to Asia. And I'm, so to say, a representative of the Department of Sales of MVV. And of course, we would like to be partner to our customers, and I will go to that a bit more in detail afterwards. As I mentioned, one of the biggest challenges we are actually facing, especially when it comes to Mannheim itself, is the heat transition in Mannheim. And we try to turn within the next, less than a decade, we try to turn a CHP power plant. I mentioned it. It's one of the biggest one. It's a coal-fired power plant. And from the heat waste of this power plant, we supply the 2/3 of the Mannheim households with heating. And that is what we are going to change. And on top of that, we have 1/3 of the households which are supplied with oil, maybe decentralized coal, which is very seldom in Mannheim. And we have to find solutions for them as well. When it comes to electricity, I mentioned already, MVV has a division in its department, in its portfolio. It's a company named UV, which is one of the biggest renewable energy project developer here in Germany. And as I said before, they are running projects all over the world. They are on an international basis, running their business. And we doubled already our renewable energy portfolio, and we will keep this pace for the future. But when it comes to our customers, then we have very different setting of customer groups, actually. We have the small private households, we have big companies, and we have municipalities, cities, communities, and all of them we would like to help with solutions to find a way to decarbonize their energy necessities, which is on the one hand side, of course, electricity for whatever kind of usage, but it is as well, especially when it comes to households, it is heating, of course. And as we are seeing climate change going ahead, of course, as well, the city of Mannheim is a sunny city, so to say. So sometimes in the summertime, we got hotspots, and we have to have solutions for that as well. So when you think about, for example, a private customer with a private home, what kind of solutions are we providing? We provide a PV module, for example, on the rooftop. We have a wall box in the garage, so he can supply his electricity-based car with electricity, and a heat pump, an electrical heat pump in the cellar. So he has heating in the summer and maybe cooling, heating in the winter, of course. Sorry, heating in the winter and cooling in the summertime. And when you think about business customers, you could just think about scaling up this kind of solutions. So we provide decentralized solutions. This is a change from the time before. In the past, we had a centralized electricity and heating production, so to say, and now we are going to the customers and we provide decentralized solutions for them and for their necessities. We are as well as a big company, as he mentioned before. We are supporting Mannheim as an industrial location, so that means industrial processes need energy in different kind of forms, and we would like to provide our industrial customers this kind of decarbonized energy. And we are supporting the administration of the city of Mannheim to fulfill the ambitious decarbonization goals of the city of Mannheim itself. And we try to do that by using digitalization as a tool to enable decarbonization. We are, of course, the city of Mannheim owes 50.1% of our company. So it's a kind of anchor investor in our company. But to improve the kind of cooperation between us and the administration of the city of Mannheim, we built a joint venture company, which is called Smart City Mannheim. And this company has two main targets. One is to achieve the decarbonization of the electricity consumption of the city administration, inclusively their municipal utilities and schools. And we would like to do that by covering their electricity demand by completely PV-based renewable energy production. On the other hand, we, as I said, use digitalization, IoT for to enable this kind of decarbonization. You think for one reason. Think about the volatility of the sun, of the PV electricity production, and on the other hand, on the necessity, for example, for a school in wintertime to have light and heating. So we have to find solutions to manage the provision of renewable electricity with the necessity of maybe a school or other kinds of city municipalities. But we would like to go with the kind of digitalization, we would like to go beyond those sustainability goals. We would improve the quality of life of the citizens and help the city of Mannheim to be more effective in the management of the municipalities. And as I already mentioned, we have on the one hand side decarbonization. It's the driver of the business of this joint venture company. And we use the rooftop PV systems on municipal properties, but we will have to have as well ground-mounted PV systems because we will not have enough capacity on the rooftops. So we try to find, and we need to find solutions on the ground-mounted PV systems or for the ground-mounted PV systems as well. And before we built a joint venture, we had a very big project with 75 people from the administration of the city of Mannheim. And we tried to find use cases for digitalization within the city municipalities. And some of those use cases were subsidized by the government of Germany in a project called Smart Cities Made in Germany. And we get a budget of roughly 20 million euros to develop solutions for that kind of goal. And the use of the IoT, the Internet of Things infrastructure, will go beyond the efficiency of energy, efficiency of energy, and will help us this kind of cross-sector usage to use flexibilities and storage capacities to manage the dissipation between energy supply from the sun and energy need, as I mentioned before, maybe as an example, the school. And the joint venture is the platform for this kind of cooperation between decarbonization, as I mentioned, as a driver, and digitalization as an enabler to achieve those decarbonization goals. So, and I will mention some of the use cases, so to say. So we have the topic of climate resilience. We have the topic of resource efficiency. So that means it goes beyond energy. And of course, we have one big and important sector, which is mobility, where we try to use Internet of Things architecture and infrastructure to manage mobility more efficient and less energy consumption as before. And we are not only using IoT infrastructure as a tool for this goals. We're using a digital twin as well to visualize and to help us to plan and to monitor our measures. This here is a picture of, so to say, the core city of Mannheim, the so-called Quadrate, squares. And there you see different colors, and those different colors are standing for different kind of heat supply for those buildings. And of course, you see most of the buildings are red, and this is the district heating. So as I mentioned, this is 2/3 of them, but some have different colors. And for those different colored buildings, we need to have as well CO2 zero based solutions for the future. Yeah, that is what we are doing together with the city administration of Mannheim to achieve our shared ambitious goals to be climate neutral by 2030 for the district heating, and to be climate positive from 2040 onwards. And we can turn around, so to say, the climate, and we can reboot district heating with our different various green options and with the use of digitalization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernhard. That was very nice. And you said in the beginning it wouldn't be a deep dive, but at least for me, I took very concrete measures how a city and a company can collaborate to act. And that is what I think is what I meant with the deep dive in the beginning, where you really are a front runner and acting here on acting local, but acting in a municipal and economic sense together. So thank you very much for that introduction. I'm sure there will be questions later onto this. So, but please for now, note your questions down, as we will first proceed with the different speakers and then have a summarized discussion in the end. And next person we will hear is Norzila Hashim. She's Chief Executive at Urbanice Malaysia, which was established in June 2016 under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. The organization serves as a center of excellence to create better cities in Malaysia. Better cities, as we learned before, are more happy cities. So it promotes sustainable and climate responsive urban development through knowledge sharing, urban innovations, partnership programs, and multi-stakeholder engagements. So it's the perfect match of today's session. Norzila Hashim specializes in promoting sustainable development and providing innovative planning solutions that contribute towards the quality of life of local communities.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the Urban Thinkers Campus, Dr. Parisa, for bringing us in to be part of these very exciting sessions. So I'm just going to go very quickly in the next 15 minutes to one of the work that we are doing now, especially in regards to progressing towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm Norzila, I'm the CEO of Urbanice Malaysia, and we are actually a center of excellence under our Ministry of Housing and Local Government. So our mission is actually to mainstream the sustainable urban agenda, and also to look at urban solutions that could actually build community resilience, also to promote climate actions for the sustainability of our communities and cities. Now, this is very important because Malaysia, our mayor of Kuala Lumpur, spoke this earlier, and of course, some of my friends from Malaysia have spoken. One of the key things that we have gone through since 1991 is this rapid urbanization. So we've become an urban nation when 50% of our population in 1991 lives in urban areas. So that's not going to stop us. We are at 77% today. And in 2040, it's expected to be 85%. And for a population not so big of 32.7 million, we have about 24 million people actually living in cities. So we've got about 314 urban centers all across the nation, and we've got about 155 local governments to actually administer them. And over the last 15 years, we acknowledge the importance of cities, not only as a place for jobs, but also they are a major contributor to our nation's GDP contribution. But what we are facing over the last few years is that the realization towards demographic changes, decreasing in disparities, especially in income, and we are going to be an age nation actually very soon, where by 2040 from 7.4%, we're going to have 14.5%, which are going to age. So all these numbers have actually become very critical for us. And the recent pandemic that has hit all of us globally has definitely affected Malaysia as well, economically, as well as also socially, So the health crisis has made us also, made us face some of the social and economic crisis where not only our GDP has contracted, but also we've got unemployment and also affecting some income levels. On top of that, in the recent months and even in last year, we've got, we're going through climate change. Our infrastructure system in some parts of the country have suddenly unable to actually cope with the heavy rains and we've been having storms, and I think you must have read that, all over Malaysia, we were experiencing floods, and this is expected to go on all the way to April this year. So it is something very, very challenging. And because of that, I think not only this is the decade of actions, but definitely there need to be urgent actions. And this is where we've been looking at a lot of urban policies, looking at a lot of new paradigm shift in terms of how we accelerate new actions. And of course, looking at cities itself, and what cities can undertake to overcome all these vulnerable, situation that we are facing today. So definitely the sustainable agenda together with the Sendai framework, the commitment at COP, especially for us, COP 21, COP 26 has been very significant in terms of what we have committed to the global community and the new urban agenda itself. And this is where we, of the last 3.5 years, we've been focusing on how to implement SDGs at all levels, be it at the national level, regional government level, local governments, as well as private and at the civil society levels. So what we've done is actually put up this framework where we have actually used the SDG 17 SDGs and its 169 targets as the framework to actually guide Malaysia's sustainable urbanization. And the new urban agenda is the enabling document that will help us to drive these implementation plans that will be very important to transform. In line with that, we have a lot of national policies, and in particular, two very important documents that is relevant to what we are doing is our shared prosperity vision and also our economic blueprint, which is a 5-year development plan blueprint, which has gone into its 12th plan from 2021 to 2025. So this framework actually is very important because even in our 12th Malaysia plan, which is our economic plan, the SDGs and the new urban agenda has been well embedded into a lot of the game changer policies that has been outlined in this document. So this is very important, not only because of the pandemic, but all the situation we are facing. And I think we are looking at the themes that has been set in our development plan, which is one of it is to look at advancing sustainability. And we truly see this is a great opportunity where the transformation can happen not only at the national level, but also at a more localized level. So what we have actually introduced to all our cities is the Malaysia SDG cities. And the Malaysia SDG cities is to encourage all the cities, especially local government level, to prepare a roadmap towards sustainability. So in doing this plan, they will be looking at the vertical integration with the national policies as well as state policies. And at the same time, align it with the work that the local governments or cities are doing at the city levels. So this is a process where I believe, it's very crucial, and this has been officially launched, this document. And it is actually this, when cities are doing this, it will actually help them to uplift their standards, but at the same time have a long-term plan towards achieving the sustainable agenda for their cities and communities. It will also help them to create more awareness to their local community and build partnerships, which is crucial, and also to obtain the current funding resources, which is related in financing the SDGs actions. So at the national level, under our ministry, we have also charted how the sustainable goals are related to our key function. But more important is that we also relate it to our local government functions, because in different countries, Malaysia, actually, our local governments are not autonomous, like probably Mannheim or in many other cities globally. So it is very important for them to understand what their roles are, in which particular area can they actually perform better with regards to making sure that the targets of the SDGs are being able for them to actually execute locally. So we did a lot of mapping exercise to actually ensure which of the SDG targets are relevant to their areas of jurisdiction locally. And also to help our cities, we localize the indicators, because there are about 230 indicators in the at the global level that has been localized at the national level, and we further localize it for our cities so that proxy, qualitative or non-qualitative data could be obtained in order for them to measure where they are in terms of these goals. And in doing that, local governments actually go through this process, where it helps them in their visioning. It will also help them in developing their own sustainability goals, and also frame their local actions and strategies. And most importantly is also to build that participatory process so that they can develop partnerships, more collaboration with their local partners to achieve their goals. So we developed this 3+1 process, in which every city has to prepare their roadmap and blueprint, and subsequently they prepare a voluntary local review, which is a document to be shared at the high-level political forum at the UN level. Why this is important for us, for the SDG cities, because the VLR is a progress report, but the Malaysia SDG cities is a roadmap towards achieving the goals. And that is why for us, it's very important to localize the targets and the goals achievement at the local level. And subsequently, it goes back to the reporting of the Malaysia voluntary national review documents. Now, what we've also done is actually frame the link back to our very important policies locally. And as you can see here, we have identified 3 major outcomes for the Malaysian cities to actually achieve. Now, besides the inclusive growth and development, as well as addressing disparities, we also look at how to promote environmental sustainability to mitigate climate change, So SDGs 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 are core for cities in Malaysia to address how they can mitigate climate change. And we've also brought in the new urban agenda into how they address and undertake their action plans. And this will also help them in terms of developing the transformative drivers, as well as effective drivers that will set the framework for the roadmaps. And of course, it will help them in also understanding the priorities for the local areas. So the process of stakeholders engagement is important, because we see we need the leaders to embrace this process. We also need the communities to understand what this is all about, and also making sure that whatever actions are being done it actually answers to, you know, all levels of requirements. And most importantly is having a framework that aligns to what the ministry is doing at the national level, and also try to link to some level of recognition, whether it is at the local level or the global level. And, you know, that will also help in some of the funding that could actually come to assist our cities in terms of undertaking some of the projects at the local level. So we've actually, and in Malaysia, we actually have an Sdg Council, and it's actually chaired by our Prime Minister. And this is in our local language, but we have a committee just looking at localizing SDG, and that's under our Ministry of Housing and Local Government. And of course, now we are looking at private sectors and their role in terms of linking ESGs, you know, to SDGs. And I think this is now our current work track that we are working on. And we started to actually work with different private sectors. For example, this is our Kuala Lumpur Convention Center, and they are also now asking us to undertake SDG measurements as looking into their operational as well as their level of services, which is related to the goals. So in accelerating the SDGs, we also look at different other ways besides just the Malaysian SDG city. We look at the urban innovation as very core, where, you know, we look at subject matters like housing, urban micro-mobility, and also urban systems as very crucial to help cities to transform sustainably. Secondly is all our forums, where we encourage lots of dialogues within different levels of decision makers to community, and also providing platforms that could encourage sharing, you know, knowledge and new solutions, or also all collaborative solutions that's being done by various groups of community. And this is our latest effort, where we have collaborated with Kuala Lumpur City Hall in developing an SDG center. I think having a physical space is very important, but we will be migrating whatever is physical into a digital twin platform very soon. And this center actually looks at more than just the function of displaying information, but also it will be a center which will act as a sharing platform for communities and other players in the city. So this is where we are, very quick snapshot. This is my last slide actually on where we are in progressing localization of SDGs. We've actually now about 8 cities doing their SDG city reports, and one which is completed is Shah. And I think the speaker will be sharing her thoughts later on. We've submitted 2 VLR, and, you know, like I mentioned, we've developed our own local indicators. So yeah, I think the journey in terms of localization is something that is very crucial, even in addressing climate change, especially at the city level. We all know that cities contribute towards, you know, greenhouse gas emission, and this is where I think it's important to address it in a more holistic manner. So thank you very much, and that's all from me, Noah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa Hashim. It's very interesting to see how such a strong national effort you have to then localize, and how you give national guidelines for local action. That was really impressive to see, highly appreciated. And maybe somebody from the city of Mannheim on the question round can comment if we have something similar in Germany, because I think that's a very strong approach. Maybe we can really learn from this and connect like over 100, as I said, 155 local governments you're connecting here. That's very impressive. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here again, note down your questions for the question round, which we have after the speeches. And next one is Felix Doehler, who will speak to us. He's a political scientist and leads the sector program Cities Policies, and works in municipal finance and climate change on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. Long title, long terms, yeah, but there you see how holistic climate change and sustainable topics are. Before he joined the Global and Sector Programs Department of the German Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit. It's the Association for International Collaboration. And he joined that in 2016. Before that, he worked as a freelance consultant, researcher, and facilitator in different programs, especially around the Society for Technical Cooperation, and mostly in China. So strong international background, which for sure gives us very interesting insights on our international partnership, UTC today. Felix, it's yours.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Noah. This is yes, this is my first attempt to show something through WebEx, and I hope I will succeed. Now I think I still have to go into presentation mode.
We can see your screen, Felix. That's perfect.
In presentation mode, or is there still?
Not yet. If you click on presentation mode, you're right. Then you will have the larger view.
Okay. Yeah. Now it shall work. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to be here today. And when I listened to Mannheim Mayor Dr. Kurz and the Mayor of Kuala Lumpur this morning, I realized why. Thank you very much for the invitation. I saw that yeah, the two cities that are having this Urban Thinkers Campus and us, we are partners in crime. The crime being this idea to advance global agendas in cities. And the two cities certainly are very impressive examples to look up to. We heard that Kuala Lumpur is not the only city in Malaysia to do so. So I'm humbled by the question that was asked before the Urban Thinkers Campus on how our work could contribute to the two cities taking up examples. But anyway, our vision, our scope is broad in geographic terms. And maybe before I go into what we do with City Works as an approach to implement global agendas in cities, I go to where I'm come from, where I work. I'm trying to, oh yeah, now I went too far. I hope this works now. I work in the sector program Cities based in Bonn, and we try to support livable cities in developing countries by providing policy advisory support to the BMZ, the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And here's a list of focal issues that we focus on, with climate change being very the highlighted global agenda. But of course, with resilience and digitalization, we also contribute to the SDGs and other global agendas that are not highlighted as. So the scope of a sector program like ours is not to really work in a country, but rather to provide the guidance for work on urban issues in partner countries. And what we did in 2015-16, we supported the German contribution to the Habitat 3 Summit in Quito. And we hoped at the time that the new urban agenda would bring a clear guidance to cities on how to implement those agendas and bring also empower cities in doing so. And in this regard, we were relatively disappointed by the outcome document and found the need that for our work in developing partner countries, we need to help municipal governments because they tend to be disoriented by a multitude of agendas they have to follow and align their local development with. So we thought, what can we do to simplify and bring some more light into this for our work? And very similarly to what Lisa just presented, we tried to bring together different global agendas that were adopted in 2015-16 and help or develop a guidance to implement them at the local level. And because of the broadness of the breadth of the SDGs and with its 169 targets, this is the agenda we started with in particular. Trying to characterize what we do, I would like to highlight a few points. So in the center of our attention is to really enable the city level in implementing global agendas. And as I already mentioned, the reasons for this is that we felt the need of the integrated implementation of global agendas and the impetus of the Agenda 2030 of leaving no one behind and also no place behind to define an approach that can be followed by every municipality, so a simple approach. At the same time, national policies and for us, the BMZ's urban strategy are guiding principles. So the idea is that our advisors in the field that may not be urban experts, but maybe energy experts or transport experts, have guidance on how to accompany such change processes at the municipal level and help the municipalities connect their local action to the global agendas and see what they've already been doing and but also to see what needs to be improved. And this is a combination of methodological tools and sector-specific guidance. So I'm sorry for this very small and maybe overwhelming graph. Maybe to simplify a little bit. In the right upper corner, you see that there is a preparatory process with necessary information and also scoping of what you want to do with the tool set that is being offered. The tool set itself is then the lower part of the circle. Firstly, get to know the global agendas. The awareness raising is a very important part. Then understand how this is connected to the local development agenda, and then identify projects and prioritize them. That's like the core part. And then, of course, finding ways to implement the action and review it. You can also start with the review and the monitoring aspects, but yeah, there are a few standard elements that are commonly used when we apply the approach. So for example, for awareness raising, we simply show a few pictures of urban settings and ask participants of a workshop to say what SDG target does this allude to, and then they get a list of these targets and they can, for example, find out, okay, this alludes to target 1.5 to build the resilience of the poor, or 6.1 to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water, or affordable housing and basic services, or adaptive capacity to climate-related hazards and natural disasters. And this is often found to be very helpful in setting the mind towards this global agendas and how they actually can play a role in the local development that is overshadowed by so many other practical considerations of every day. Then a second, I might say, signature tool is this SDG wheel that serves to focus the discussion of a broad group of stakeholders on the most important construction sites of local development. And so again, the SDG targets, they must be prioritized. Maybe we recommend picking 15 or 20 targets max, and then to discuss which ones are fulfilled at what level. This is an informed discussion, but not based on scientific indicators. But this discussion can lead to many kinds of resulting reflections that will be done. Here are a few practical examples. Very glad to be able to present this from the last Urban Thinkers Campus, Kuala Lumpur, which Parisa Kloss moderated at the time. And then the 3 districts in Ghana from an application. And you see a setting how this is being discussed. Then we have a collection of the tools on our website. There's no time to go into depth, but you can see here on the upper left side, there's, yeah, so the tools are organized in 3 phases and 8 steps. Starting with the preparation, then, as I said, awareness raising, relating global agendas to the local level, identification, prioritization, and then actual implementation, planning, and monitoring evaluation. Then there is a quick guide to help. It offers like the philosophy behind the approach and some hints on how to use the tools. Then maybe I'll take a quick glance at a few applications that we had. I'll leave this, I mein, I assume the slides will be distributed after the Urban Thinkers Campus, so I will not go into every detail, but there's different ways of using the tool set. It's, we always did it strictly on demand basis. Some programs were advising on new local development plans to be done, others on the financing issue, the budgeting issue, others on revising plans into incorporating the SDGs or new urban agenda consideration. And so I'll leave it at this general statement and present the first case, Ghana. Here, 3 districts in the Upper Volta region were the kickstarters of a process to establish a multi-level monitoring system of the SDGs. And so this prioritization of issues at the local level was the starting point for identifying relevant data categories, but also the stakeholders that hold the information and those who need the information and will use it for certain decisions. And there was a lengthy process of the program accompanying this, and it ended with a database that is very nice, and a dashboard where you can see the indicators and monitor them in real time. And second case I would like to highlight is with a district, a municipality in Nouakchott in Mauritania's capital, where we used the tool set to cluster fields of intervention according to SDG relevance to for the municipality to develop a local development plan for the next 3 years. Yes, and maybe I'd also like to highlight the recent extensions. So we started with the SDGs, as I said, but always had in mind to extend to other global agendas as well. And this was done with the Paris Agreement. So there's one particular approach to use CityWorks from the starting point of an NDC and how this can be implemented at the local level with a number of tools having been added for this method, but also using existing tools. Then another version or another approach to CityWorks was developed in the context of a project that we were glad to implement last year in response of the COVID epidemic in 5 municipalities, what it was called Resilient Cities Action Package. And there we wanted to explore what cities can do, even under adverse circumstances, to promote a green recovery agenda in the midst of a pandemic, and advance their resilience at the same time. Okay, so as a last point, I would like to summarize. So CityWorks is a guidance for cities to design and actually carry out a process of localizing global agendas. This is our focus. It's not rocket science. We base our approach on existing tools as much as we can, but we want to make this knowledge available as universally as possible. Then the main currency we deal with are the SDG targets. I showed you the SDG wheel, and you can select the climate relevant SDG targets, for example, and then you have a pre-selection and you can still customize. But this is our language through which we talk. Then, yeah, I already mentioned the specific approaches for Paris Agreement and Sendai Framework and resilience. Then please visit our website, have a look at the quick guide if you're interested. We have a pool of around 15 consultants that can help with applications. If you want to use it, the tool set successfully, I think leadership and a concrete purpose and the openness for dialogue are the basic preconditions. Now we want to expand our offering on the website with a login area and a dashboard for your own application, but then also for gathering relevant information. For example, Norzila, I would really love to engage in more dialogue and encourage you to have a look and maybe add your own tools to the website. Looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Felix, thank you very much for your presentation, very perfectly. And we already collected some questions in the chat, and I will just motivate you. Please keep posting your questions there. I will pick it up in the question round later on from the chat, or you can ask them later. So preconditions: leadership, purpose, and dialogue. Closing remarks of Felix Doehler. And true leadership, I think we see today in the questions on how to act on SDGs and on sustainability. So I'm very happy to have this group, and I think that's a very nice term, is precondition. Yeah, you need leaders who want to drive climate adaptation, climate mitigation, or climate change mitigation. Yeah, climate we want to keep. Next one on our list to speak to us today is Annie, and we spoke before, so I may call her by her first name, and we will hear from Annie, who is an Urban Planning and Sustainable Development Officer at Shah Alam City Council. She currently serves as head of the Sustainable Development Unit at Shah Alam City Council and is implementing projects as Low Carbon City, Safe City, or Smart City Shah Alam. So there's a broad overview of different projects she's driving, and she can report to us. She has been working now for more than 14 years in various capacities at the Selangor Town and Country Planning Department and Shah Alam City Council. So many different municipalities she knows about and can give us experience from. As well, she launched the Local Agenda 21 at the local authorities in Selangor. So another strong program she's driving there. And that's the local implementation of the UN Action Plan, Agenda 21. So Annie, stage is yours. We're curious to hear from you.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you for the kind introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm Annie from Shah Alam City Council, Malaysia. Glad to be here on behalf of Mayor to share on our SDG and low carbon initiative. So, next, please. Before that, let me introduce you to Shah Alam City. Shah Alam is the capital city of Selangor State. For those who have not heard of Selangor, Selangor is one of the is in the west coast of Peninsular Malaysia and perhaps the most developed states in Malaysia. By the way, we are just 30 minutes from Kuala Lumpur. Shah Alam was the first planned city in Malaysia. Its jurisdiction area was expanded several times between 1983 and 1997, in which the last extension comprised a total area of 303 square kilometers. With the 61 built-up areas and 39% non-built-up areas, Shah Alam is largely a developed city. Next. Shah Alam City Council, or known here as Majlis Bandaraya Shah Alam, is the custodians of Shah Alam and an agency under the Selangor State's government. These are some basic information about Shah Alam City. Next, please. So we start our journey on sustainable developments as early as in 1998 with the Agenda 21 and Local Agenda 21 programs. The Local Agenda 21 program has been quite success story, and we have been recognized as one of the most advanced city in LA 21 implementation. In 2015, we embarked into the low carbon city framework journey to further strengthen our commitments toward the sustainable development in Shah Alam. LCCF has opened many more doors for international recognitions and partnership for Shah Alam and Shah Alam City Council. This journey start in September 2017, where Shah Alam has been selected to represent Malaysian to participate in APEC Low Carbon Model Town City Destination Project Phase 7 under the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Japan. Next. In conjunction with Shah Alam 20 years anniversary, MBSA, our Shah Alam City Council, has made a bold commitment by launching the Shah Alam Sdg Roadmap 2020 in WOF at Abu Dhabi, February 2020, before the lockdown. Yeah, next. So as the first city in Malaysia to prepare the Sdg Roadmap, we work together with Urbanice Malaysia, Ministry of Housing and other government agency. Of course, we are doing it in Malaysian way. We use Malaysia SDG City as reference. In our roadmap, we assess our own city. Then we start with our stakeholders engagement series by overlaying the actions and the perception index that we managed to identify. After that, we manage to identify which SDG need to be sustained and which require more actions. So our framework will accelerate our SDG city pathway. At this stage also, we set the priority of Shah Alam SDGs. Next. Yes, in 2021, we managed to submit and present our first VLR. Shah Alam is the first city in Malaysia to participate in the Malaysia SDG City Network. We inspire to become a leading example in the integrations of the SDGs and the new urban agenda in a schematic approach to sustainable and inclusive urban development. Next. Shah Alam has been recognized as one of the most sustainable green city in Malaysia since 2010. Next. With the strong, next please. With the strong local government leadership and willingness of the local stakeholders to work together towards a low carbon development pathway, Shah Alam has fully adopted the LCCF approach, and we target to become a low carbon city by 2035. Next. Even in our VLR also, we share our progress, experience, and good practice on SDGs. Under the SDGs 13, we make a bold statement. Shah Alam City Vision is to become a city that responds to climate change challenge and promotes low carbon city lifestyle to meet the global visions for sustainable agenda. We target to reduce absolute GHG emission reduction 45% by 2035. And yes, next please. We also have the action plan that contain 6 strategies, 24 game plan, 66 action, and 197 sub-actions. So that conclude our commitment towards the low carbon city. Next. We realized that by doing low carbon city program, we also doing another 10 SDGs, as we can see in this slide. Next. Our pilot project was conducted in our town center area, which is area around 395 acres, which contain 23 units of building. So you can see that the progress of participation from the building owner to our LCCF project since 2015 until 2017. Next. How we managed to convince the building to work together with us is by transform our own building to low carbon building. We managed to come out with the big amount for total cost saving. If we convert to USD, we managed to save around 50,000 USD per month and 600,000 USD per year. So it's quite a big saving compared to a very small initiative done by Shah Alam City Council. Because for your information, our building is an old building. Next. These are some of our achievement and saving on transformations our own office building. So by that success story, next, we managed to establish our partnership, and these are the annual electricity consumptions of 23 buildings in town city center shared by our partners. So as you can see, we have a quite big data to actually plan and also to monitor our energy. Next. After the success story of our in our project, pilot project, we expand our project. One is in section 1 under IGES project. We are working with the biggest university in Shah Alam. Then we also expand to our state administration area in section 5. Next. So these are the areas that we expand. Next. And we also proud that our initiative also mentioned in Malaysia VLR 2021. Next. And these are some our achievement at the national and international level. Next. Next. These are the latest award that we won last year. Next. And what we benefit and learn from this journey. We take this as a commitment and challenge to our city. We initiate and collective a local action, review our cities, and now we have a baseline data based on that collaboration. Not just that, we also get the global attention like today. Maybe before this, no one knows Shah Alam except our beautiful Blue Moss. But look, for today, we are here together. And we also learn that we have to change our mindset and how we work. We really need to be more visible to our stakeholders and our communities in order to get them on board to this beautiful journey for our next generation. Next. Yeah, that's all. I hope with this sharing session, we can learn something together. With that, thank you. Back to you, Noah.
Hey, thank you very much. I think it was quite impressive. Thanks for closing with the lessons learned. So giving us already the overview on what we can do better and what we can learn. That's a perfect summary, I think. And when the slides will be shared, then everybody has that at hand as well. I thought quite impressive the awards you did win, creating the visibility and showing as well to all of us, I guess, how important it is that we create visibility for sustainability topics. And as well, what I took away from your presentation, which I really liked, is that you created an economic pilot benefit case and then did the rollout. So that's maybe something we can discuss in the question round with the others as well. How could your business pilot case could look like to convince stakeholders to make a larger rollout? But before we go to that discussion, we have one last speaker to hear, and that's Parisa Kloss. Finally, we hear that presentation. Looking forward to that. She's the founder and executive director at the Resilient Urban Planning and Development, which is a company based in Bonn, Germany, but with their international competence. She works as well in, for example, Middle East, Asia, Europe, is doing that now since more than 18 years. She's a trained architect and urban designer and plans cities all over the world. She's an expert in urban climate change planning, urban heat island effects. So we're closing now the loop to the first labs. She's an expert on climate adaptive and intelligent cities, on mitigation and adaptation strategies. So she will inform us on sustainable and resilient urban planning. Parisa, looking very much forward to your presentation. But Parisa, you're still muted, so we can't hear you yet.
Yes, just now I could find it. Thank you so much, Noah, for your kind introduction. Yes, I would like to actually share with you or introduce you an approach by using a technological tools to show how can we facilitate the process of enabling climate action plans and overcome some of the obstacles that we are facing to implement them. One of the crucial obstacles is the lack of data and tools to visualize the existing critical points and bring them into the eyes of decision makers in order to take a smart and resilient action. There are many common approaches applied by scientists to measure urban heat island phenomena by using the data that is coming, for example, from mobile traverses at a macro level, or the data that is coming from weather station at the local level, or the data that is coming from satellite imagery at global or regional level. But actually, the result and analysis out of those that is coming out of those data and tools are a number of diagrams, charts, maps that cannot be perspicuous by decision makers, architects, urban planners, or other stakeholders. In this case, how can we convince, for instance, decision makers where are the critical points just by showing them those diagrams? They are not visually simple to understand, right? They will give us an abstract overview, like we can prove scientifically that an urban area based on those measurements has higher temperature. For example, in this diagram, you can see the temperature differences between urban and rural area is around 6 degrees. It means that scientifically we could prove that the city is struggling with urban heat island phenomena by using the data that is coming from, for example, weather stations. But the problem is that we don't know what kinds of elements in that target area are responsible for creating that heat. Or for example, when we are walking in a street or in an urban canyon, we may feel the solar reflection from solar buildings, but we cannot precisely say which element individually or in combination of other elements is reflecting that solar radiation and how they impact on other surrounding surrounding buildings and public spaces. So they are not giving us an accurate overview of finding the hotspots. Therefore, if we don't know where are exact hotspots, how can we come up with a solution and take a smart action? So in this regard, to overcome those constraints and to make an interactive communication with decision makers and of course with other stakeholders, we decided to develop a model to visualize cities and their response to the climate condition and ease the process of taking smart and resilient actions. In this regard, I'm going to introduce you an initiative that we started in Montreal City in Canada. We started developing a model that performs through a computational platform called Solar Vision to optimize the climatic performance of the city from various dimensions by applying a spatial analysis, which helps identify the hotspot, study them, and also develop potential corrections and then evaluate the most suitable one. Computational platform, for those who don't know it, are platforms of integrated softwares that have user-friendly interfaces that can help us to properly analyze data, especially the large data sets. Actually, we developed a model that's called 5-dimensional climate scenario model. And why we are calling it 5-dimensional? Because on one hand, the model is based on the 3D model of buildings, topography, shading devices, trees, etc. And the 4th and 5th dimensions are shaped along climatic and weather data of the location in different hours and seasons. So basically, the model will be able to provide a comprehensive platform to document the existing climate stress in cities, predict the improvement potential of future planning opportunities, assess their climatic impacts on surrounding areas by placing new designs into the model. Last but not least, can also serve as a base for future construction project or for granting construction permit. As I already mentioned, we started this initiative in Montreal City. This project is still in the process, and we are slowly expanding it in the whole downtown of Montreal City. We selected an area called Place Bonaventure as our pilot area. It is considered as one of the hotspots in Montreal downtown. Here in these pictures, you can see the Google Earth picture that it can give you an overview of how the area looks like, and also some detailed picture that I took from this area. But actually, how we selected this area as a pilot area. First, to select the area for our pilot project, we used remote sensing to somehow orient ourselves. We mapped land surface temperature, which can help us to have a general overview of quickly finding the critical points of the city, the points that were exposed to the solar radiation and absorb more solar energy. Then we zoomed in and analyzed the areas to find out the high-risk area, prioritize them, and take it to the next level, which is development a three-dimensional model. In this slide, you can see that here is basically the Montreal Island. There are lots of hotspots in the island, basically in these areas where industrial areas are located, and there is a lack of greenery and also covered with lots of low albedo materials. But actually, we focus on the downtown of Montreal, which is this part. And here in this, in the right picture, you can see that there are lots of hotspots in downtown of Montreal that should be that we should take immediate action. That here is actually Place Bonaventure that I already talked about it, that you can see it's also one of the risk area that we have to take immediate action. To achieve our goal, which is 5-dimensional climate scenario model, we should have several climate analysis to have an idea about the impacts of climatic parameters in the target area. We should analyze them to understand their impact in different months and seasons. So basically, there are many analyses behind the final product that I just wanted to quickly mention it, and the model has its own strong analysis and prove scientifically what is happening regarding the climate parameters in that target area. For example, here we analyze the solar radiation in different months and seasons. I'm not going through the detail, it's going to take lots of time. And we analyze the temperature that can show us that actually Montreal City is suffering from extreme heat during the summer. And also we analyze the positive and negative effects of the sun by multiplying the solar radiation with the need to shade and shine. We could achieve the positive and negative effects of the sun that later on we are going to map this climate analysis on the 3D of urban area to see how urban form or urban structure somehow interacts with the climatic parameters. At the same time, in order to have a better view of the likely and extreme scenarios in future and their impacts level, the past climatic conditions should also be analyzed in detail. Here you can see that we analyzed 50 years of past climatic condition in Montreal City in order to have a better idea how we can develop the scenario for the future. And here you can see that we map this climate on the urban area, on the urban fabric, and also building a skill to find out the exact hotspots in order to take a smart action. This was actually the point that I wanted to mention, that we already also multiplied the solar radiation with the need to shade and shine, and at the end we could achieve the hotspot that you can see here better in the facades and also in different dimensions of the city. This is basically our pilot project, and is slowly going to expand. And you can see, for example, the roof and some parts of the ground has a high temperature, and the blue parts are showing the good thermal comfort in this area because of the trees, the greenery, as well as the shading that some of the buildings, because of their certain orientation and volume, can provide. So as I already mentioned, this model document the climate stress that you can see it here, and also predict the improvement potential of future planning opportunities. And also, as I already mentioned, by placing the new buildings and new design in this model, we can assess their climate impacts on surrounding areas. For example, a single building can perform perfectly alone. For example, maybe we are designing a really good sustainable building, and it can have a good climatic performance individually. But as soon as we are putting that building in one urban context, it can show completely different climatic performance. So this model can help us by placing the new designs into this model to see that how this single building can also impact on surrounding buildings and also urban public spaces. And last but not least, as I already mentioned, this can also serve as a base for future construction or getting a construction permit by placing a design building here. If it will show an appropriate climate performance, it can get a construction permit. And I want to share with you one scenario because of the lack of time. Here you can see that here it is a really hotspot area. We integrated greenery in this area, and we could decrease the temperature up to 5 degrees centigrade, and we could actually provide the thermal comfort for the citizens, especially during the hot summer. And by that, I would like to mention the approach that I introduced. You can bridge many gaps. One of the gaps is the knowledge gap. It can empower the policy and decision makers by accurately visualizing challenges, which can help us to not only take a resilient action that cannot be eroded and destroyed over the time, but also can help us to save time and budget. So applying spatial climatic analysis can help us to create a common language to interact with various stakeholders smartly, to bring the problem into their eyes and show them the areas that they are more at risk and they need immediate action. It will assure that all the stakeholders perceive the challenges and they are consistent with others in solving problems. It can also bridge the technological gap. Technological tools can help cities to better identify their challenges, communicate prepare, manage any crisis in an uncertain and sophisticated environment. In this regard, technology acts as a supportive tool to ease and facilitate the process of perceiving challenges in a very complex system. Today, the technology improved and updated, which can provide us a good platform to develop models that can fulfill the previous approaches and methodologies, investigate the issue from various dimensions, and give us a broad view to solve the problem and make a smart decision. And also can bridge the scenario development gaps by categorizing past, present, and future weather events, and testing current state as well as proposed strategies could also help identify the scenarios and develop appropriate solution for the future. And lastly, it can also bridge the data gaps. The model uses open data to map the climate and urban planning and design, which capture insight from various perspectives and motivate innovation by using big data. And simply saying open data provide new opportunity to tackle the issue. However, the accessibility of the data, transparency, or because of the security concern, data privacy, I don't want to go through all details, can be a tremendous challenge in lots of cities around the world. And yeah, at the end, I would like to say this model, somehow based on the aim of new urban agenda, this introduced model will enable cities to take accelerated and more ambitious climate action. And of course, I will also open the discussion for more how we can all together overcome the obstacles and barriers that can stop us implementing climate action plans, and how we can move forward by our collaboration and partnership. Thank you so much.
Parisa, thank you very much. I'm not sure if everybody noticed the little scientific notes on the slides, and that's the latest findings of 2021. Because I think I didn't tell you before that Parisa, as well as lecturer in several German and international universities. So this is really scientific cutting edge, what you presented to us. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
For that knowledge. And we got some questions in the chat. Now we are going towards the question round, and we will discuss together with you. And we will as well have a bit of focus on the question how we can proceed, how you can connect with each other, what can be the next steps, that we have some findings and some actions coming from this UTC. But as well, of course, we will look into the questions from the chat. And just for your timing, we have like about 20 minutes for this, so that you can notice how we plan to proceed. I would start with questions just to Parisa Kloss, as we had it just the presentation. One question from my side would be, Parisa, how much effort it is to implement such a model? How easily could like the participants of this UTC just ask you, can I have a model like that for my city? I think that would be quite interesting for many of us. Yes. And as well, there was a question in the chat, how strong you can move in or out of that map, like showing details or showing general overviews.
Yes, if we have data, and we can also get the actually support of the government or responsive organization, we are actually in good way, and we can develop it as fast as possible. But for example, in Montreal City, the data was available and we could do it as fast as possible. And we are slowly trying to expand it. But it depends. For example, if you want to do it in unplanned area, it's completely different. If you want to do it in developing country, if you have a data and how much data you have, it can also create high resolution. I mean, if you have a really good data, we can create a high resolution with all the details. But actually, as I all the time mentioning that lack of data cannot stop us doing something. We have to start from something, and because this is a decade of action, we have to move as fast as possible. So it can start with a really small part of the city and slowly expanding it in whole city. And regarding to the question of how we can actually create it, if we have a good data, we can create it for whole city, and we can also expand it as much as possible. It's possible, actually. It's not only for one small urban area, it can also be for the larger scale.
Perfect. That sounds great. And if it's feasible for you, maybe you can share the data needs for your model with the group and the documentation, so then everybody can assess if they have enough data to start directly with such a great map.
Thank you.
Thanks, Parisa. Felix, I think you chatted quite a bit already in the chat, and there was the question how we can use the SDG wheel for Mannheim. You said Mannheim and KL are already front runners, but how's your impression? What you can pick up from the presentations you heard, and what we can do better from your international perspective?
Oh, there was music. My impression from the presentations is that I'm impressed, particularly of what has been done in Malaysia in this regard. I think there's a lot we can learn from in terms of methodological questions that we haven't really touched upon. For example, it's been the aim of our tool set also to provide this mandate check. So is a city really able to change something with regards to a certain SDG target, with regards to a certain sector? We touched upon this in many areas, but it's difficult to develop a standardized tool for a number of countries because the conditions are so different. And it confirms, we have something I didn't show in face of time, a so-called co-benefits table. So whenever you are active in one area of urban development, this may lead to positive and negative co-benefits concerning different global agendas and goals. And this helps to bridge the gap between the agendas or the sectors also in urban development. I think this is something we need to put more emphasis on our applications. It's one point I see. Then thanks a lot for the interest from Mannheim also to look into the application. You never know. Maybe there are a few things that you find interesting. You think we've never thought of this angle, but our general orientation is to provide an overall guidance, so to get from the start to the end of a strategic reflection. And I think there's no city Mannheim can really look up to very far in this regard, with a mission statement 2030 and the climate action plan and everything it's done. And yeah, very happy to feed in your relevant experience. And I know Mannheim also has different development partnerships, and maybe that would be something to look into, to joint promotion of approaches and methodologies for those partners.
Thanks, Felix. And the video is small, but I'm sure Christian Hübel is now glooming for the compliments, and he's very happy for that. Yeah, thanks for appreciating the efforts which are made here, which are made by all in this group of today. I think it would be great if we have the possibility to share like the co-benefit table and stuff like that in the documentation again, that we in the group use it. Maybe there's more agendas which Mannheim can create co-benefits from. That I sure would be appreciated. And when we look into the question creating benefits, we have now all agenda topics, but in the beginning we heard Bernhard on the question on how to make a joint venture, even a business case on that. And here was the question how strong you can open the tools you're developing here, like your digital twin for other cities, how easily others can join your steps.
Frankly spoken, that is not so easy to answer because for the digital twin, we actually have a closed shop, which we are going to discuss whether we would like to open that for others or not. So momentarily, I'm not really able to answer that question. In terms of, okay, we are developing an app and we will open those data. On the other hand, the joint venture itself, the construction of the joint venture and the measures we took to develop a business case for that joint venture, that could be partly shared. Not in all details, of course, but I mean, from the structure and the key drivers, that could be shared.
I think that would be as well highly appreciated, and this really connects fine to the next question, which was posed to Norzila on the question how to convince. And then there may be a joint venture framework is one way to convince people to participate, but how to convince them instead of saying it's a top-down approach. I think you already gave some answers to the on the chat, but please give it to the group as well. How you manage that.
Yeah. Thank you, Noah. Thank you also to Hugo for asking the question. Yeah, I think it's actually making people want to do it. You know, I think we don't want to also just have a top-down process. Even though when we first started it, actually we never did it top-down. We actually had it easier from a bottom-up approach, but eventually we realized that we need to have some form of coordination at the top level as well. So that's when we started to go to the national agencies that's also coordinating SDG work tracks, you know, go to the Ministry of Finance that's also giving funding for programs, you know, to make it much more exciting for the people at the ground to actually do this kind of work, you know. So when we started, we actually went to the cities. We did a lot of road shows. We're still doing that. We're still doing awareness program, and we're still doing exhibitions. You know, we're still having to do awareness. I think it's continuous, and why people will want to do it, I think we are not forcing them to do something which is not not relevant to their area of domain. You know, we are asking cities to just, you know, what are their real issues, and you just choose the issues that the people in your cities are most concerned about, and then, you know, start to prioritize those issues and the SDGs that you want to work on. So that's when Shah Alam started. You know, they were looking at 5 SDGs in the beginning. So we have certain cities that are more ambitious that they want to do. They want to, you know, look at much more SDGs to target on. So I think that it's a partnership process. Everyone needs to be involved in it, and we cannot force. There are cities where we've been going to them few times, but till today they have not started anything. So having the top down is important as well. Then you sort of, you know, get people motivated, knowing that national governments are also pushing this and it's important agenda. Yeah. So all I can say is that, yeah, it's hard work definitely, but it's an important agenda that needs to be done by all levels of government.
Thanks, Lisa, for sharing this, let's say, two-sided approach. Yeah? Having, on the one hand, setting priorities and the needs of the persons and the humans, at the same time, putting a little bit of pressure from top down, making sure that you start the right things. So I think that's a learning as well. We need both sides. It's not one or other. Yeah? So that's one learning as well we can take from today. Thank you. And any last question in the chat was shared with you or was directed at you on your lessons learned slide, which I already mentioned before. And you said there was a lack of project continuation in the past. So how did you cope with that, and how did you regulate that?
Okay, first of all, we need to understand what really we want. So that before we have this SDG roadmap, before we have the action plan, we just do. We just do and what we think is necessary. But we need to monitor, assess first, and then monitor, and then so that's why we always think that if we want people to change, we have to change first. That's why like my presentation is focused on how we change our own building first, then give some good repo or good showcase for people to follow or people to do. So with the economic derived, so people will believe, because dollar and cents is very important. So that's why we target for the which project can give benefit to the people, to the public, to the private sectors, of course to the community also. So that's we more focus. So when we assess and then we monitor, we must have strategy to do. So I think that is what we learn to overcome the issue on the lack of project continuity, because I'm sure everybody is facing this also, because we just do, right? We don't access and we don't monitor. So we really need to be focused so that we can make sure the project is continued. I think that's the answer for Pablo. Yeah, Mr. Pablo, thank you for the questions.
Thank you very much. And here again, we see how important your plan is, that you can follow up on. And as I said in the beginning, we're trying to get an idea on what can be next steps. And we already mentioned many sharing of documentation and ideas, and that we are not losing this. I already asked Christian Hubel in the background. City of Mannheim is willing to collect all of this in a documentation. Yeah, the documentation you will get, of course, anyway. But if you provide your links and your information to the team which organized today's UTC, they will include this so that the knowledge will shared all across the group. And so from the documentation, I think we got many ideas today. We got ideas on this in the lab 1 and 2, more on city planning, on having climate corridors, on having green facades, having different measures. And in the last lab now, we will look into how to map actually real indicators, how to measure it, how to have advanced computational models, or how have to joint ventures that we can do a private-public partnership to achieve SDGs. So different approaches, and then all of them, knowledge will be shared. And I think this is like a little playbook for you now, like a storybook on how to achieve goals at different levels. And that would be the perfect use of the documentation of today, if you can use it for your brainstorming and to create new efforts. And for sure, everybody who did give a speech today is available for questions as well afterwards, and you can reach out by email if you got the documentation and you want to go into more detail. I think that's the idea of connecting people of the urban think campuses. Because having said that, I have no more questions on the chat and I have no raised hands. I think we had a great last lab. As Simone Borrell said in the beginning, there is no closing session, so it's on us, it's on you. And from my side, I say thank you very much for your ideas, for your contribution. A good night to Kuala Lumpur. And now then a lunch break to the German people on the call or wherever you're around on this world. That's the nice thing on digital tools. We can work together all around the globe to make it a better world and to save the climate. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.